So here is a slide that tries to summarize my career with BP so far. As I mentioned earlier this year, I celebrated 20 years with BP, which was quite, well, mixed emotions. I'm not quite sure where those 20 years have gone, certainly very quickly. And I never really anticipated staying with BP for so long. When I left university, I did a chemical engineering degree in Australia. I did an internship with Mobil before they joined ExxonMobil, but I was very convinced that I was going to join the biochemical engineering sector. That's what I had majored in, and that's where I thought the future was, and I really wasn't interested in hydrocarbon companies because they were dinosaurs and relics of the past and not something I would be particularly interested in. But I was fortunate in that I had one of my university professors who talked me into taking the Mobil internship, and that allowed me to see that there was actually a lot more to petroleum companies than my preconceptions had allowed me to see, and that they really were fantastic companies to join as a young graduate in terms of the development opportunities that they offered and the global experiences that would be available versus some of the other job opportunities that I had, and in particular job opportunities with some of the biochem companies. When it came to actually choosing a job, it was a difficult one. I had offers from ExxonMobil and from BP and from a number of other companies, and it was a very difficult choice to make as to which company to join, but I felt, well, whoever I join, I'll be able to change later on if I'm not happy. But one of the things that really drew me to BP at that time was the culture. I could see from the people that I was interacting with through the hiring process, there was something different about BP versus the other companies. They had a culture that people were very proud of, and a culture where people were clearly happy and really enjoying what they were doing. And I decided, okay, of the options that I've got, I think this is one that will serve me well. And at my very first job, I moved to Brisbane in Australia to work at BP's refinery there as a chemical engineer and process engineer, so using my university expertise. I had been there for about 5 years when I think I was able to garner enough support from some of the senior managers there that I should be put onto one of the career advancement programs or development programs for senior leaders. And their feeling was that I needed some international experience outside of Australia, and they arranged a move for me to Chicago at one of our refineries there, which is a much, much bigger refinery than the one I was working at in Australia. My partner, then husband, by that stage we met at university, but both ended up securing jobs with BP, and so we were both moved together to Chicago and both took jobs there. We worked there for 4.5 years. I was working in a number of, well, firstly in a commercial and strategy role, and then in an operations role, running around about 4 process units within the refinery, and overseeing a lot of improvements to safety measures in their operations. I think through that experience and through the global development program that I was on, they helped me in securing a position in Los Angeles as a plant manager for a facility there. It was not a very big facility. There was about 80 people, but it was very, very profitable and a very material contributor to our North American business profitability. And so it was a fantastic job, a very good experience to really pull together a lot of the experience that I had had to date in the manufacturing parts of the business, really understanding what's needed from a safety and environmental point of view, operations, maintenance, and the commercial delivery of the business as well. After 2.5 years there, I was given an amazing opportunity to move to London, and in London I was working at St James's at headquarters as the executive assistant to the CEO of the downstream business. BP has quite a good system which has been running now for decades, and I think a lot of other organizations are now doing the same, where they take people who they see having the potential for senior leadership roles in the future and give them the opportunity to work very closely with some of the very senior leaders in the organization in jobs that have a lot of depth and breadth, but are quite unusual in that they're not a line delivery job in themselves, but they're jobs that really become the glue of the organization, allowing a lot of the organization to function in terms of how they fit together and work together. But those jobs really allow you to see a lot, to see how senior decision makers work, how they manage large chunks of the business, what skill sets matter and important, how decisions get made, what the processes and systems are, and you develop a lot of networks of people throughout the organization, which are then very valuable later on as well. So after 3 years in that role, the head of downstream at the time decided that I knew quite a lot about assets and asset management. I knew quite a lot around safety and environmental performance, but the area that I really needed to improve on was to grow a lot more commercial capabilities, and the best way to do that was to do a posting in our trading organization. And so I moved from St James's to our Canary Wharf office in London, where I started I had a number of different jobs, but a key one was looking at our tankage strategy for trading across Europe and working out how to improve what we were doing there. We were renting tankage, we owned some tankage, but the whole tankage footprint was each piece had come to be based on what that part of the business thought made sense for them, and no one had really looked at the whole holistic picture around what would make sense for the company as a whole, and would there be a better way of doing it. And so through that, I recommended that we divest a very big terminal that we had in Amsterdam, and through that I was appointed as the single point of accountability for that divestment. And so I worked very closely with our mergers and acquisitions team on the divestment of that asset, and at the same time also had quite a bit to do with ethics and compliance, which is the E&C piece that you can see there, in addressing issues across our tankage infrastructure and the interface between some of our downstream and trading businesses. That gave me, it was a fantastic role because it really gave me a lot of exposure to many different aspects of the business, and in particular it was the first time I really worked closely with traders. Both the distillate and gasoline traders were using a lot of the infrastructure that I was reconfiguring, so to speak. And through that process, the trading organization decided that they needed a new commercial commodity manager in Singapore, which then ended up being my next posting.